God will provide. This Mexican folktale is an adaptation of Aesop's Hercules and the Wagoner. It teaches the age-old moral that God helps those who help themselves. Good hard work is often the best way out of a tough spot. One sunrise, two neighboring farmers set out for the market in town. Their wagons were piled high with tomatoes that would ripen quickly in the hot noonday sun, so they pushed their horses steadily all morning, not wanting their precious cargoes to spoil on the way. But the poor beasts were tired by the time they reached the steepest hill outside town, and strain as they might, they could not get up the slope. The wagon sat at the bottom of the hill, with the climbing sun beating down mercilessly. "There's nothing to do but let them rest," said the first farmer, shrugging. "And come to think of it, I could use a little siesta myself. We've been on the road since sunup. I think I'll lie down under this tree for a while." "But you can't," his companion explained. "By the time you wake up, your load will be ruined." "Don't worry, my friend. God will provide. He always does. I'll just say a few prayers before I doze off." He rolled over on his side with a yawn. The second farmer, meanwhile, strode to the back of his wagon and, putting his shoulder to the rear, began to shove as hard as he could. He yelled at his horse to pull forward, but to no avail. He pushed till the veins stood out in his neck, and he cursed at the top of his lungs. But his cart ascended the hill not 1 inch. Just then the Lord and St. Peter passed along the road as they sometimes did, for often they walked abroad in order to look into men's hearts. The Lord saw the frantic, swearing farmer struggling with his load. He smiled and laid a kind hand on the wheel, and at once the cart rose to the top of the hill. The Lord passed on with St. Peter at his side. The gatekeeper's gaze bent downward, as if he were pondering every step. "I don't understand," he said at last. "Why did you help that man? Even as we came upon him, we heard him cursing most irreverently, and yet you did not help his friend who offered his prayers for your help." The Lord smiled. "The man I helped cursed, it is true, but not with his heart. That is just the way he talks to his horse. In his heart, he was thinking fondly of his wife and children and aged parents, who depend on his labor and need him to return with some profit for his toil. He would have stayed there pushing all day. His friend, on the other hand, calls on me only when he believes he needs me. What he thinks of is sleep, so let him have his nap."